In today's time, we see an immense increase in movements seeking to erase LGBTQ+ and Black history and representation from the nation's public life. In such situations, it is easy to feel hopeless, but some people and organizations are trying to overcome this by offering a space for artistic expression. There is one such organization in South Florida, and its mission is to present powerful messages of hope, inspiration, and unity by employing state-of-the-art technology to envision a future in which racism is eliminated and diversity, equality, and inclusion thrive and are celebrated. The name of the organization is GENVAS, Generation Venetian Arts Society. Our guest today is the founder of this organization and also personally believes in nurturing the emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being of all people through purposeful, thought-provoking, and enlightening artistic experiences, while simultaneously celebrating the multicultural and intergenerational diversity of the South Florida community. Welcome to Unapologetically Queer. I'm your host, Al Ferguson, and I am proud to talk to some of the most interesting people of our LGBTQ+ community that are the most interesting to LGBTQ+ community. This program is unique because it is an unedited conversation. At Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network, our mission is based on the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community. We believe our history, and more important, our future, are based on the communities of Black LGBTQ+, Latino, lesbian and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. William was a native of the North Carolina mountain country and grew up in the family's hospitality business. He was fond of art from a young age. He has worked in different industries before he decided to found GENVAS. Well, we're very happy to welcome Willie Riddle to Unapologetically Queer. And let me get it right off the table, right at the top. I always like to know who I'm talking about. Willie, I understand you identify completely as unapologetically queer.
Unapologetically queer.
For a long time. Right?
For a very long time.
Well, as we indicated in the introduction, you are the founder of GENVAS, and a lot of our community might not be familiar with the organization Generation Venetian Arts Society. Interesting, of course, in LGBT because we're all about our entertainers and our entertainment. Tell us a little bit about GENVAS and what you do.
Well, originally we began as the Venetian Arts Society. It's a long history of why that name was chosen, and part of it being Fort Lauderdale being the Venice of America, so on and so forth.
Right.
And as our mission statement, we wanted to celebrate the multicultural diversity of the community. So we were Venetian Arts Society.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
And we did our after we officially became the Venetian Arts Society 12 years ago, we did our first concert at the NSU Art Museum, Fort Lauderdale, where we were kind of headquartered for a while. And we celebrated Pride Month, we celebrated Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Culture Month, Caribbean Heritage, everything. Mm-hmm. And we were moving along, doing a lot of programming at Nova Southeastern University and at all the major venues in South Florida. Mm-hmm. And then COVID came along.
I'm sorry, what was that?
And then COVID came along.
COVID.
Yeah, you can't remember that.
I guess I didn't go into that.
And it sort of stopped us in our tracks like everyone else. But it turned out to be, for us, a great thing, actually, because we have always focused on intimate and interactive events, not these large venues. So it gave us time to take stock of where we were, our brand, and we rebranded completely. our marketing team came up with the name Generation Venetian Arts Society. So I guess we're laying claim to this whole period of history.
That's right.
I thought it was kind of a neat idea. And then they also developed GENVAS Global TV, which is on our website, with intent to go internationally with our concerts.
To broadcast concerts.
Yes.
Is what it will do. That's interesting. I'm curious, Willie, from the standpoint of the shows and the entertainment. They can tend to be more classical, Broadway themed. What kinds of music events do you sponsor?
Well, now we do all types, all disciplines of art and all genre of art. We started out mostly with classical music. It was about 40% jazz and musical theater. I was a professional opera singer for 12 years before moving to Fort Lauderdale. And then all the years of education before that, and then a lifetime of, a childhood of music and the arts. And so that's, remind me what the question was.
Well, what kinds of programs
music.
that you do?
Yes. Yeah. So when we began this, yes, they were more classically oriented, but they've changed drastically. The organization keeps evolving, and right now it's the flip. We probably do 25% really classical music. I want to say hardcore, but I don't mean it like that. But we bring in talent.
Gay. We like hardcore.
We like hardcore. Yeah. Right. So we bring in artists from all over the world, and these are Steinway artists. These are artists, opera singers from the main stages of the world: La Scala, Covent Garden, the Met.
Yeah.
And but we try to make them more accessible to people, to show that it's not an uptight experience to come to hear these artists.
Yeah. You're broadening the pool.
We're broadening it.
Yeah, interesting. GENVAS came to my attention on the concert that you did at Sunshine Cathedral Performing Arts Center with the Pride Month music program and Callaway. Tell us about what you were doing there and what you were trying to accomplish.
Well, that particular concert is part of a series that we call Cafe Society Pride. And it highlights the really great artists, master artists of all disciplines and genre of music. And again, in an intimate and interactive setting so that it's relaxed. Our focus, the reason for creating this specific series was to make a statement, stand up for and fight against this movement that is in the world today to erase the LGBTQ and Black history from the public, from the educational institutions, and basically society in general. We wanted to highlight the best artists we can get our hands on and bring to South Florida, who are fit into one of the categories of LGBTQ, as well as advocates. We have an advocate who is Liz Callaway, Ann's sister, in December at the Lauderhill Performing Arts Center.
Oh, very nice. I'm glad to hear that. I want to be sure and attend that. The concert that was done to launch Pride Month here in South Florida at Sunshine Cathedral Performing Arts Center was interesting to me because the principal voice, well known, the writer and singer of the Nanny theme of the show, and a principal support performer voice for Barbra Streisand and Broadway Tony Award nomination. she brings her sister, and one of the big highlights of that concert is all of the music is Broadway tunes that are designed to propel the LGBT civil rights struggle since Stonewall. And this Broadway song really means this in our community. Ultimately, to finish her singing one of the most magnificent versions of Over the Rainbow that I have ever heard. And she does it completely a cappella. Which was
stunning.
Stunning.
Yes.
And stunning. I'm curious, because we always talk about this. Your music program is not geared for just an LGBTQ plus audience. It's a broad audience from the eye of the LGBTQ community. Do I have that right?
You have that right, because you're correct. Our stance is to bring people together instead of separate people off into categories, and I think it's a lot about enlightening the mainstream, if you want to say, in a manner that commands respect and their attention, respect, and time to stop and listen to this and hear the messages. That's how we choose the artist that we bring for all of our programming. Mm-hmm. First, they have to be master artists. Second, they have to have the it factor of connecting with people individually in the audience, as well as they have to have a message that's relevant to today's society, what's going on today. Mm-hmm. And Anne's show, for example, it was, and every number in the show it was either written by a gay queer composer or performed by a gay queer composer or somehow connected. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was fantastic. And she wrote the song, which was really, for me, the highlight of the evening, Love and Let Love.
Yeah. Beautiful moment. Perhaps we can show a moment of that in our conversation today on Unapologetically Queer. I'm curious, Willie, from your standpoint, first off, approximately how many concerts or integrations of music events does GENVAS do in a year? What's average for you now post-pandemic?
Average 18 or 20.
Yeah, 18 to 20 music events in South Florida. It brings me to ask the question, which is always fascinating to me. You live in Wilton Manors. We always joke, since we broadcast this show starting, it's Happening Out 5 years ago with Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network, we always joke to the rest of the nation and to the world that we're broadcasting from the gayest place on planet Earth. And no disrespect to our friends in Palm Springs or West Hollywood, or the Castro or Greenwich or Boys Town, but we say, there's something really different about South Florida, and you are a field example of that. We have GENVAS doing all of these classical and Broadway and other related music events. We have the Wind Ensemble, gigantic music group. We have the South Florida Symphony Orchestra, which is really a very LGBT-led event. One of the largest gay men's choruses in the world at the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, and it goes on and on and on. What is it about here that has in our community such a desire to embrace arts and performing arts?
Because when I first moved down here 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, I lived in Manhattan at that time. I'm from North Carolina, obviously. You can tell.
Yes, I can hear.
But I was in New York at that time, and I moved down here, and I was like, oh my God, this is a cultural wasteland. And for the most part, it still would be if it were not for the LGBTQ community.
If it wasn't for gay.
No, and it's absolutely true. Because we've lost, even the classical radio station. Yeah. We lost that. Yeah. But there's a fight. Not fight's not the correct word. There's a determination and a perseverance that comes.
A struggle.
A struggle. Well, it is a struggle, but there's, like I said, a perseverance and a determination that is in the gay community, LGBTQ community, that we can't live without art.
Yeah.
And for that matter, every civilization down throughout history is defined by the art.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Voice, written word, and performance.
correct.
Yep.
Correct. And we try to address in our shows, another thing that we try to address are the emotional, mental, and spiritual nourishment of the community, especially after COVID. Did such a number on the suicide rates up, so on and so forth.
Depression, mental wellness.
Exactly. All of these things. And I personally, 15, 16 years ago, I had sort of a midlife crisis and a very serious time physically and emotionally. And what brought me out of it was actually starting this organization, planting the seed, and it's grown.
Yeah.
It took root, and as it grew and came into its own, so did I.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me. We do a lot of work with Richard Gray and Visit Lauderdale, and we help and talk about the story of South Florida. And again, to all respect to my friends in West Hollywood and to Palm Springs specifically, they're just not Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manors. They just aren't.
No, they're not.
Because there is such an embracement here of the kind of entertainment. I'm curious for you. You said you were an opera singer. You were in New York. Do you still sing?
No, I do not.
Yeah, because...
No, I at 32 I had gone about as far as I could go in the industry. Yeah. I was singing professionally and supporting myself, but I was also 32 and looking at the 40s coming in. Yeah. And I was off, and one of these
opera singers are age dependent.
No, not really. Okay, but you know, I was never going to be you have to really be a star, to be a household name. There are many of the greatest opera singers on the planet that have ever lived in history that nobody's heard their names. Yeah. And I found out that I also didn't love the traveling and everything that went into it. Oh. I was offered a position, and it was based out of South Florida. It changed the course of my life. It was a pivotal time of my life, just like starting this organization was. And so it's just been a roller coaster ride, a great journey, and I've loved it.
One of the things that I was curious about in looking at you and how you draw from experience to lead GENVAS is I saw in North Carolina you were involved in dinner theater. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah, that's why I came down here. Yeah. Yes, and I started
work. You know that 9 out of every 10 people that are watching us right now have no idea what we're talking about. It's an art form that is long gone.
It's an art form that is long gone, but I started undergraduate school at Appalachian State.
Oh, I love Boone.
In Boone. And I, after my sophomore year, I got a job as a singing waiter at the Farmhouse Restaurant in Blowing Rock. Yeah. Okay? Know it. So in 1981. And I worked there. I worked for the owner for 20 years. Oh. It was only open 3 months of the year, from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
And super gay, which was unusual
and,
for Western.
And super gay. There were about 40 singing waiters and waitresses. Right. And they had, it had started in 1955 as a dinner theater, but the Blackwells, who owned it from Fort Lauderdale, bought it in 1940, the old hotel. Right. So anyway, when Mr. Blackwell died at 90 years old, that's when my life changed, and his wife, who lived in Fort Lauderdale, asked me to move down here and work for her year round and run the dinner theater and the restaurant and the hotel, everything else.
Run Blowing Rock from Fort Lauderdale?
No, well, we were only open 3 months of the year up there. Okay. So we came back here. I would usually go up a month or so before to get it reopened because it didn't have any heat or air conditioning.
Right.
It was built in 1892.
Right, right. For people that don't know what we're talking about, I suspect that is most. Think of Dirty Dancing.
Yes, that's exactly.
And that's what you're describing in Blowing Rock in Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is I heard rumors this year, and it reminded me of you talking about being an opera singer in New York. I understood that there is maybe a couple, but for sure one that is a trans opera singer, and you were going to bring her to Fort Lauderdale. Tell me that story, or what happened.
Well, I had contacted her probably in 2008. No, she made her debut, and she is an
Tulsa,
American
or
with the Tulsa Opera.
Tulsa, see?
She made her debut in 2019. Her name is Lucia Lucas. And she made her debut in the opera Don Giovanni, which is the Don Juan story.
Yeah.
And she playing Don Giovanni.
Yeah.
So she goes on stage in drag as a man. She has a dramatic baritone voice.
Right.
And it can kind of catch you off guard unless you're prepared for it. And I had booked her for 2021.
Yeah. And this little thing called COVID.
Well, yes, I booked her for 2021, and so she couldn't come. She and her wife live in Berlin. She is an American. She was born in America. I've lived there the last 10 years or so. So she couldn't come. So I found really a kind of historic transgender artist, major artist, Sarah Davis Buchner. She transitioned probably about 38, 39 years ago and had to leave the United States and live in Canada.
Wow.
But anyway, we brought her here. It was for an audience of only 30 people. We filmed it at TV quality level. It's not been shown, but I plan to bring her back sometime toward the end of 2024.
Oh, excellent. Oh.
So a wider audience can. She has an incredible story.
Yeah.
But she was invited back to the United States in 2009 to play at the White House by the Obamas.
Yeah. Awesome. It's a wonderful story example of what GENVAS is doing in our community and making a commitment for performance at a different level than we would normally see in South Florida. GENVAS I know we're in the dog days of summer now, and this is not the time that our entertainment organizations generally program. Come back in fall, and then definitely look at the winter of 24. Tell us about what's going to be up next for GENVAS. What's your intermediate and long range plans?
Well, the next events, concerts that we are having are actually afternoon. And because of it is not quite season yet. We're going to do one on September 7th, Sunday afternoon, September 17th, and one October 15th, Sunday afternoon. And they're both going to be at Thassos Greek Restaurant. Mm-hmm. They're menu tasting, wine tasting, and we have special entertainment for both of those events. The next salon concert, we like to call them, is going to be here at Sunshine Cathedral. Right. And we're bringing Nicholas King and Seth Sykes. They are probably the two top cabaret artists on the New York scene today. And they are also a couple. So they will be doing a show called The New Belters. And
as in Broadway Belters.
Belters, as in Broadway Belters.
Yeah, it's clever.
Nicholas toured with Liza Minnelli for 10 years as her opening act, and she was his mentor. Oh. But they are incredible cabaret.
And when are they?
They're October 28th.
October 28th, right
here
before Halloween.
Yes, and then on November 4th, we are doing free to the public in Wilton Manors at the Richardson House Historic Park and Nature Preserve.
Right.
We're
Right across from City Hall.
Yes, we're doing a concert on Saturday night. It will be it's at 8 o'clock. It's free to the public. We're bringing a wonderful tech, electronic / classical pianist from Columbia, and he's a superstar there. And his name is Ivan, and he takes classical themes and he writes electronic tech accompaniments to them.
Yeah.
And of course, they're changed, but it just uses the themes. So it's a dance party music.
Oh,
and we will have dancers as well performing with them. It's quite a show, and it is with the city of Wilton Manors.
Yeah.
And all of these things right now, all of these performances, these 18 to 20 performances a year that we're doing, right now they're sponsored by mostly the Community Foundation of Broward, our Fund Foundation, the Broward Cultural Division, yes, and Funding Arts Broward. I do want to mention all of those organizations.
FAB, as most people know them.
And then our membership is of the organization. We call them our angels and ambassadors.
Yeah.
And they are they've held us together until we could get the help of these wonderful organizations.
How do people find out more information about what GENVAS is doing?
And go to our website,
which is
www.genvas.org.
Yeah, and that's GENVASS.org.
No, VAS.
VAS, one.
Venetian Arts Society.
Okay. Oh, Venetian Arts Society. It's an example. The reason I think meeting you is so interesting is we constantly say if we're going to win the fight for social justice in LGBT, we have to demonstrate to the broad community we're no one thing. And we're not just drag queens, we're not just our bars, we're not just RuPaul's Drag Race, we're not just our beach parties and our circuit events and gay days, and you're a perfect example of it. We have men's choruses, and we have symphony orchestras, and we have GENVAS.
Well, down through the ages, the greatest artists, composers, musicians, dancers have mostly been gay, been queer.
Yeah.
It's not anything. There's a wonderful organization in Manhattan called Chamber Queer.
Right.
But I do want to add that back to Lucia Lucas, both Lucia Lucas and a non-binary violinist, Andrew Yee, that I wanted to bring down here this year. Both did not feel comfortable coming to Florida.
This was the question I was prompting you at, because I had heard the rumor that they would not come to Fort Lauderdale because of the worry and the visual message that they were getting from presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. That's correct then, correct?
It is correct.
Yeah.
I was stunned because I was like, I don't hear this much. I live in Wilton Manors, so it's...
Yeah, we're in a blue bubble.
Yeah, we're in a blue bubble.
Yeah.
I was curious. I was asking friends outside of Florida what they were hearing, and even Ann Hampton Calloway. When she came to the Sunshine Cathedral that evening, and I introduced her to Robert, she thanked both of us for having the courage to do. And I thought, well, this is nothing. I know. What are you talking about?
Right. This is South Florida. We are Fort Lauderdale.
Exactly. Exactly. But we do have to show the best side.
Yeah.
The best side, and to command the respect.
Yeah.
That we deserve.
Absolutely. Well, Willie Riddle is doing great things in our community, and especially representing our LGBTQ community. I invite you to follow them. Generation Venetian Arts Society. Isn't that a beautiful name? GENVAS.org, GENVAS.org. Willie Riddle, a pleasure meeting you, and thank you so much for being on Unapologetically.
Thank you for giving me this platform.
Unapologetically Queer, which
thank you
clearly
obviously am.
Thank you very much.
Fabulously.